Hello! So during this presentation I'm going to talk about how geology impacts society in the way of occupations. So in my family there are a couple of, we have a lot of different types of work that we do. So I'm a freelance writer and I travel around. My dad does construction and also travels around working on different houses and everything. And then my brother is kind of in the way of being a park ranger right now, so geology kind of affects us in a lot of different ways. And I recently just had a conversation with my dad about this for this presentation because I found the information and the text we've been reading to be so interesting. So I'd asked him about how knowing geology or the landscape of a place where he's building a house is important to him. And he was saying that before he builds a house, he has to obviously do like a land survey to see high points, low points, what kind of ground he's working with, etc. And then he also has to measure down deep into the ground, send sound waves down there to discover what kind of rock he's dealing with, because if he's laying like a water line or working with a sewage system or something like that, you can't build a house where there's, say, like nothing but, I don't know, 10 or 15 feet of limestone or some kind of rock that's in the way of like a major system that would support the house. So I think that geology informs my dad's business, his construction business, in the way of his success, which does affect society, because if we had all these construction workers not paying attention to what type of ground they were building on, then I think there would be a lot of damage and probably a lot of hurt in society. Some really bad things could happen there. So that is how geology affects the construction building side of society, in just one simple way, of course. And I also wanted to talk about how geology affects my career as a writer. It might not seem like a huge effect, but as a writer I travel a lot and I write a whole bunch of different kinds of stories, which is really exciting. But I wouldn't be able to travel to different places if the geology of that area wasn't known. Same with other people. You wouldn't be able to fly halfway around the world if that area hadn't been researched or looked back on the past. By that I mean retrodiction. But say that, so one of my recent trips was to Japan, actually, to Tokyo. And as we were reading in the text, there are 3 major plates that are basically right under the city, which is extremely dangerous. But given that we know a little bit about the past of Tokyo, we can feel a little safer. I felt a little safer, at least, knowing that there was some sort of plan set if an earthquake happened or a tsunami was happening or something like that. Not that I would have a greater chance of surviving, I guess, but at least there would be some knowledge of, hey, this is a dangerous place, or it has been in the past, right now it's okay, but here's what you would do in the case of emergency, which is largely credited to geologists and many other scientists who have researched the past, researched events, and kind of created a timeline of when those might occur again. So that's really important for people like me who build their business on writing about such things, traveling to those places, and really recording what has been learned and what's being passed on. That's a huge part of history and society and other people learning about geology. So while it's not directly like building a house and someone might, have a really big problem with that, it is important to record truthfully and to be able to travel to those places to get the story, to get the facts, and write them down for others, maybe just a few or maybe hundreds of people to read. And lastly, Thanks for staying with me here. Lastly, the job that my brother is doing / kind of wants to do is a job being a park ranger, which I'm so excited for. I'm so excited for that. But he's studying biology right now, and I actually took an ecology class with him, which was fantastic. I loved that so much. But him being a park ranger would be learning a lot of different kinds of science, but mostly learning how to handle people in the case of how to act in nature, or how to respond when something happens, or what precautions to take while they're in the park, and how to maintain the park and things like that. And you cannot do those things without the knowledge of geology, of course, a lot of other different kinds of science, biology, ecology, etc. But if he was working in the Rocky Mountain National Park and something like an avalanche happened, and he wasn't aware that there had been history of those in the past in a certain area on a certain mountain, or hadn't, learned what the precautions were to take, several people might die because nothing would have been done. While that's definitely an extreme kind of example, I do believe that geology does affect a society in that way, that a lot of lives would be taken if, geologists weren't around to do their thing, if different areas of science didn't overlap with geology, which is what my brother would be dealing with directly, having his biology degree, his ecology focus, overlapping with geology. You can't learn about different species without learning about where they came from on the earth, how they evolved, things like that. So geology, the study of the earth, is, no pun intended, the bedrock of so many different things, whether it's construction or writing historical documents or traveling or becoming a park ranger. There's so many awesome and wonderful things that stem from the knowledge of geology, and I'm really thankful that I've had a chance to soak that in and learn a little bit more about it, although my knowledge doesn't seem very in depth yet. I'm very excited to see how geology affects society and the lives of others by the jobs that they choose. Thanks.